Well, good morning and Happy New Year, and welcome to UWSELA Southeast Louisiana's monthly investor call. I'm Michael Williamson, President and CEO, and we're so glad to have you on. On your behalf and with great gratitude, we want to thank you for your ongoing support of our work, because on your behalf, on behalf of roughly 19,000 other donors just like you, we're working to eradicate poverty in Southeast Louisiana with our Blueprint for Prosperity, which is laser focused on the broader issue of poverty and building better, brighter futures for all of our citizens. And as you well know, we fight for the education, health, and financial stability of every person in every community. And so once again, we want to thank you. And this call is really designed to benefit you, to let you know how we're putting your resources to work every day here at UWSELA Southeast Louisiana. Let me start by giving you a quick update on some recent legislative work that's taken place around the new tax plan. Many folks have been watching the news reports around the new tax plan that's been implemented by our current administration at United Way and like United Ways around the country. And on your behalf, we've continued to monitor the potential effects of that legislation. While there are some concerns that the increasing of the standard deduction may in fact end up deterring giving, here at United Way Southeast Louisiana, we truly believe that our donors, like you give because you believe in the work that we're doing. And so while we're going to monitor the effects of the tax plan, we have confidence that each and every one of you will continue to support our work. And once again, we're so grateful. A couple of takeaways from the plan itself. We were able to increase the child care tax credit, which was a huge success, and that increased the child care tax credit up to $2,000 per eligible child from a current or previous rate of $1,000, $1,400 of which is refundable. So that's great news, and we're very, very excited about that. We also advocated for the increased refundability by counting the first dollars in or lowering the earnings threshold from $3,000 to zero. Now, while that didn't take place, the threshold was lowered to $2,500. So while that's progress, we all agree that progress can still be made. Another great win and success was the preservation of the earned income tax credit, which is proven to be one of the most effective poverty eradication tools available to hardworking, and I should say hardworking again, citizens in our communities. And so we're able to preserve the earned income tax credit. And like the child care tax credit, both of those are pro-work, anti-poverty credits with a proven history of success. And so we're very, very excited to see the earned income tax credit preserved. Again, I'll circle back to some projected effects of the new tax plan. There is an estimated $1.5 trillion in cuts to federal revenue. And so there are concerns that may in fact affect program spending, many of which are used in our communities to help those most in need. Currently, concerns around Medicaid and SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or once we have concerns around potential funding loss. But we'll continue to monitor that situation on your behalf and report back to you as we learn more. Moving forward, and just so you know, because of the increase in the standard deduction, we're going to continue to advocate that the charitable deduction be universal for all filers, and work to always increase the refundability of the child care tax credit, and of course always do anything we can to strengthen and improve and protect the earned income tax credit from any reforms, because once again that's been a proven and valuable tool in helping to fight the bigger issue of poverty. I also would like to let you know that Strive New Orleans, which is a local program that helps individuals around building soft skills so that they can be more prepared for work. Initially, the program was targeting the 52% of African American males in our community that are unemployed or underemployed, but it is available more broadly to citizens who could use those services. We're so pleased to announce that Strive New Orleans will be moving into our building. So we'll be neighbors here in February, and this will create great synergies, and we're going to report back to you later about how that program is working to help our citizens be prepared for gainful employment. And so I'm just so happy to have Strive moving into our building, and once again, later in the year, we'll come back and tell you just how well that's working here at United Way. With that said, I'd like to move on to our Chief Impact Officer and our Head of Community Impact, Ms. Mary Ann Rose.
Good morning. Thank you, Michael. I am really excited this morning to share with you two of our initiatives we're working on that will move people toward prosperity. Today we have Chiquita Lattimore, our Director of Financial Capability, who will share information about our volunteer income tax assistance program. And then Todd Baptiste, our Vice President for Education, will tell you about the grade level reading campaign. So both initiatives impact our blueprint for prosperity by focusing on the outcome of prosperity tomorrow, where all families have the social, educational, and financial assets to create a better future. So I'll turn it over to Chiquita and Todd.
Thank you, Mary. The Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, VITA for short, is an initiative of the IRS is to help support free income tax preparation service for individuals who make $56,000 or less. The service is to help low-income to moderate income families with their tax prep. It also helps individuals who are disabled and elderly and limited English speakers, again, file taxes each year. Since the program started, since United Way started administering the VITA program, we've helped and returned over $100 million back into the communities from the tax return, and from EITC, Earned Income Tax Credit, over $56 million has been returned back into the community. Some of our VITA sites open on January the 8th, with some will continue to open throughout the rest of this week. You can visit the United Way website or call 211 for more information of where those VITA sites are located. We do have sites in Orleans, Jefferson, St. Bernard, St. Tammany, Washington, Plaquemine, and Tangipahoa Hope. We are excited that we have two brand new virtual sites in Washington, in Jefferson Parish and in St. Bernard. And I also want to talk to you about our Super Tax Days, which is February the 3rd, in partnership with Entity, Total Community Action, and Asset Building Collaborative. We will be hosting our Super Tax Day February the 3rd at Xavier. At this time, I don't have the time, but it will be held in the gymnasium. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Todd.
All right. Thank you, Chiquita. In keeping with our blueprint, I'm pleased to share with you the effort, excitement, and expectation from our campaign for grade level reading. United Way and the Institute for Mental Health and a host of other partners are committed and are developing a citywide cross-sector campaign to improve third grade reading and related outcomes in for New Orleans children. This effort was launched in New Orleans because data shows that in 2015 and 16, just over half the third graders in Orleans Parish achieved a score of basic or above on the reading section of the state's assessment, the ILEAP, and only 31% received a score of mastery or above. New Orleans has joined a national call to action from the National Civic League and put a stake in the ground on the issue of early literacy. This collaborative effort by foundations, business leaders, government, leading social sector organizations, state and communities believe that schools must be accountable for helping all children, but schools cannot succeed alone. Third grade is a pivotal point in a child's cognitive and academic development. Students transition from learning to read to reading to learn. Imagine if all New Orleans children are reading on grade level by third grade. Research shows that cities would increase graduation rates, increase post-secondary education attainment, create jobs, grow the economy, and decrease crime. If you're asking or thinking, how can we increase third grade reading proficiencies? The campaign work is focused on helping communities and policymakers promote three areas: school readiness, which aligns perfectly with our Success by Six work, chronic absence, and summer learning. Let me share with you some facts. 11,900 at-risk 0 to 4-year-olds do not have access to publicly funded early child education programs. 21% of elementary school students in Orleans Parish were chronically absent in the 2015 school year. 11,700 children aged 4 to 12 living in poverty do not have access to NORA's subsidized summer program. When we started this work last year, we placed a call to action about the importance of early literacy, realizing that there's no single answer to solving the grade level reading crisis. In an effort to engage elected officials, it is with excitement that I share with you that the campaign was very active in the New Orleans mayoral election and hosted a mayor's forum. We asked key questions of the candidates on their plans to address and improve the key strategies outlined in the grade level reading campaign. We published their responses in a voter's guide and have a policy committee poised to follow up with the mayor-elect. Subsequently, Mayor Mitch Landrieu, the New Orleans City Council members, and early child education advocates gathered last month in the mayor's office to celebrate in celebration of a historic, first of its kind, $750,000 city investment in quality early childhood education seats in New Orleans. The $750,000 allocated for early childhood education is an unprecedented investment in the city's children. As a result of this great work taking place, we're working with the Jefferson Chamber on their parish's education strategy. We cannot have a successful New Orleans without providing avenues for learning and growth. The New Orleans Campaign for Grade Level Reading is a collaborative effort of leaders from government, business, education, families, and nonprofit sectors who have committed to working together for the next decade to increase the number of New Orleans students who are reading on grade level by the end of third grade. We're doing this by focusing on those three primary drivers for third grade reading: increasing the number of children who enter school ready to learn, improving attendance during the critical early years, and preventing summer learning loss. More than happy to share more information, and it can be found by visiting www.nolagradelevelreading.org, or you can find us on social media at NOLAGLR. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. And all great examples of how we're working diligently to leverage your financial contributions to our work. Another great way that we continue to work on your behalf and leverage your support is in the area of public policy and advocacy. I'd like to introduce our Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Charmaine Katz-Kipley.
Thank you, Michael, and Happy New Year, everyone. I'm delighted to follow the team of Community Impact because, as you've heard, the work that we are doing programmatically can only be enhanced and enriched if we are on the ground doing the policy work that builds the opportunity for us to leverage the investment that we are making on these programs. I'm delighted to start my report today by acknowledging the fact that we were indeed thrilled that just at the beginning of this year, Gambit named our chair of public policy, Kim Sport, as one of the New Orleanians of the year for this year. Kim Sport is certainly a treasure. Her philanthropic and her volunteer commitment to this organization, I think, is unprecedented. But I think what is extremely exciting is that she was recognized in large part for the role that she played here as the first chairman of our public policy committee, advocating for a comprehensive agenda that addresses all of what you've heard in connection with an anti-poverty agenda. I'm especially thrilled that her work and her commitment to really help lead the fight against domestic violence and sexual assault was recognized in that. And I hope that you all join me in not only acknowledging that this is a great tribute to the work that we are doing on the ground in building a comprehensive coalition united against domestic violence, I'm also thrilled to tell you that we are hitting the ground running. We are now looking at, in fact, Kim was here just yesterday so that we could determine what's going to be the next meeting date for our the Public Policy Committee to meet so that we can begin to address what will be, in fact, approved by our Board of Directors as we lead into the state legislative session that is set to begin in March of this year. I do want you to know that I was extremely excited because, as many of you are aware, United Way responds during times of disaster to support our Alice households. And we do everything within our power to help these families and individuals get back to their homes as quickly as possible. Following the tornadoes that struck New Orleans East last February, United Way was able to provide immediate relief and recovery assistance. We responded with nearly 750 volunteers serving 2,800 hours with an estimated economic impact of more than $68,000 in community savings. I was invited because Michael Williamson unfortunately couldn't be here, but I was honored to represent you, Michael, as we welcome the Dorsey family home. And I want you to know there's no sweeter message than to say home for the holidays. They were able to spend Christmas as a family in their home. And the beauty of that is that while we are privileged to partner with the St. Bernard Project, we're privileged by the resources that are made available to us in connection with our partnership with Entergy. I can tell you that none of this would have been possible were it not for the long-standing commitment that we have in proving that we hit the ground running when it comes to responding in times of emergency and crisis. So we celebrate the fact that the Dorsey family's back in their home, and we are continuing to do our recovery work throughout our region. I'm especially excited to say that public policy has worked to confirm the active participation of State Senator J.P. Morrell, who's been a strong and stellar champion for our work on our anti-poverty agenda. And on January the 19th, we're going to be doing a poverty simulation, which is going to bring together some of our strongest volunteer leadership throughout our region. We are delighted that he will be positioned to give the keynote address because he has been a strong advocate, and to have someone with his area of expertise is going to just be phenomenal, and I think will allow our volunteer leadership to understand the role the state plays and the economic implications associated with poverty. So,
thank you, Charmaine, and the recap of the Dorseys' welcome home is a perfect segue to Jameen Dahmer, our Senior Vice President for Long-Term Recovery, to give us an update on how we continue to use your support to help families recover from recent disasters. Jameen. Jameen, are you there?
Are you there? Okay. I got cut off a little bit. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. As Michael mentioned earlier at the beginning of the call, we're obviously working on our blueprint for prosperity and eradicating poverty in Southeast Louisiana. But as it relates to disaster, we kind of know that many families are just one disaster or one crisis away from being thrust into a poverty situation. And that's why our work around the flood recovery and tornado recovery is so important in our region, so that we're there, boots on the ground, ready to run when something does happen. So as it does relate to the Great Flood of 2016, I've reported in the past the goal that we had and what we were trying to achieve over this past year. I can remind y'all that over 10,000 families and individuals actually registered with FEMA following the flood in 2016, indicating that they had had damage in their homes and needed assistance. Well, we have set a goal to work with 80 families over the past year through 2017, and I'm very ecstatic to report that we have not only met that goal, but we've exceeded that goal. We initially thought we would hit 81, but I'm happy to report that we're actually going to close the year out working with 88 different families and individuals into bringing them into a recovery situation to make their homes safe, sanitary, and secure. So it's a wonderful, positive thing that's been happening and continues to happen. We've invested, actually, if we look at the direct dollars that we've invested in bringing people into a recovery situation, as well as the volunteer hours that have been put into working with those 88 families, and the amount of goods that we've been able to have donated, we've actually been able to put back into the community over $824,000 worth of service to bring those 88 families into a recovery situation. So that's great. I wanted to share, there's a lot of things happening. Charmaine mentioned about the work that we're doing with St. Bernard Project and the tornadoes. We are continuing to work with people in the tornado areas, but I wanted to close the call out by sharing 2 personal stories about how those dollars that are invested in flood recovery have really affected one-on-one families in our region. Michael, our CEO, was able to come do a mic'd up road trip actually right before the holidays. And we were able to highlight a family that was able to come home, and literally 2 days or 3 days before the snowstorm hit, our contractors were on their roof finally repairing roof leaks that had been just getting worse and worse since the August storms. And they were so excited because I think their comments were the snow was outside instead of inside. We surprised them with the food basket for the holidays so that they would be able to have their own very big Christmas dinner with their family in their own home, and they could do it in a dry situation where they weren't walking around with buckets that were situated throughout the home. So we're really happy to be able to report that. One of the other families that I just got a call from last night, the Arnone family, this is a gentleman who works, he is for all intents purposes an ALICE population individual. He works, he makes a decent living and tries to do everything he can, but he's also a farmer and lives in a mobile home up in the north end of Tangipahoa Parish. And when the flood happened, it came along very quickly, and it had never flooded there before, and they were woefully unprepared to have that amount of water that had come into their home. They had over 4.5 feet of water that inundated their home. And when I say inundated, I mean everything they had picked up and was floating down the river, including our client who caught hold of a tire trying to save himself and the animals that he had on his farm. And here it is, just about a year and a half later. And just yesterday, he sent me photos of them walking into the house with their last appliance being delivered into their newly renovated mobile home, where he and his brand new daughter and wife, his daughter of 3 months, were able to move into their house. And so I just want to tell you the work that is happening continues to be phenomenal, knowing that because of the donations that are made and the investments that are made in our community, we have families that continue to come together. We do, as we move into 2018 and even into 2019, know that there'll be about a 3-year span of which we'll be working with families that are trying to recover. And we expect already this year that we will probably be able to impact the lives of another 50 or so families as we rebuild through the community. So I'm happy to report that. I'll continue to let everyone know the families that are recovering. And I know Michael, as our CEO, plans to do a few more mic'd up road trips. So we encourage everybody to tune into Facebook Live as we hit the road to look at some families as they celebrate their homecomings.
Thanks, Jermaine. It's such a pleasure to represent our donors, advocates, and volunteers, the lifeblood of our organization, and meet the families that are actually receiving our assistance and support of our partners like SBP, Catholic Charities, and others. So thanks for the work that you're doing. And once again, to our donors, volunteers, and advocates out there, we don't do this work alone. It's with your support that we're able to help these families return to their new normal. Next, I'd like to introduce Debbie Modlin, our Chief Financial Officer, talk a little bit about the importance of volunteers in our finance area.
Great. Thank you, Michael. I am excited to announce the recruitment of some key volunteer positions. As you may know, volunteers are the foundation of our organization. They participate in the governance of our organization through various subcommittees of our board, depending on their expertise. One of these board subcommittees is our Finance and Operations Committee. Their role is to review and monitor our fiscal policies and financial position of the organization. The chair of this committee is also our board treasurer. We are currently recruiting a few new volunteers who are CPAs for our Finance and Operations Committee. The only requirements are that you live or work in our 7-parish area, you are annual donors to United Way of Southeast Louisiana, and you advocate for United Way by supporting our organization through your various professional and business associations. This committee meets 6 times per year, and the meetings are generally 1 hour long. If you meet these qualifications and would like more information on this important volunteer positions, I would encourage you to email me at deborah.m@unitedwayseala.org. You can also find my email address on our website. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Debbie. And once again, if you have a interest in finance and a background in that area and you'd like to volunteer, please reach out to us. We're always looking, for great minds to join us and help us in this work, and especially in such an important role. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Lee Thorpe, our recently promoted Senior Vice President for Resource Development Marketing, and give us an update on how we're leveraging your dollars to raise more dollars.
Thank you, Michael. I'm excited to represent our resource development and marketing teams today as our teams are out as other groups are boots on the ground in the impact work. We're boots on the ground to let our donors and our advocates and our volunteers know about the work that's being done every day. And we're excited to be able to engage every one of our 20,000 donors in this work. We're excited that we have a brand new partnership that we're kicking off this Saturday with the City of New Orleans, hands-on, our volunteer center, and network volunteers to kick off the tricentennial with a challenge to recruit 300 volunteer hours to celebrate the next 300 years. So we hope that with the 300,000 hours of volunteer service, that we can show the work and the commitment that our individuals in this community are doing for the resilience, the equity, and the public safety of New Orleans. We're kicking off this tricentennial with Martin Luther King Day of Service, which is going to be this Saturday, January 13th, at the Hoffman Prep Head Start. We have more than 300 volunteers already recruited to participate in this event, and we're excited from 9 to 12. We'll be in Central City at the Hoffman Head Start and doing some really great work to serve the children that are most vulnerable and most in need in our community. As we know, the most formative years of a child's life are before the age of 6, and it's so important that we're investing in this work to make sure that children have a healthy, stable place to learn and grow. So if you're interested in volunteering with us, there are still positions open, and you can go to our website, unitedwayseala.org/volunteer with us.
All right, thanks, Lee. And we really, really are excited about the 300,000 hours celebrating the 300th anniversary of the great city of New Orleans. Our chairman, Rick Hodge, unfortunately cannot be with us today, but certainly on his behalf, I want to thank you for joining our investor call, and hope that you'll join us in the future and share it with other friends that you may have that may be interested in learning about the great work that, with your support, we're doing. As you know, we have a blueprint for prosperity with the goal of ending poverty throughout Southeast Louisiana, where we fight for the education, health, and financial stability of every person in every community that we serve. Of course, if you want to find more information, you can visit us at UnitedWaySELA.org, or you can find us on social media using searching the handle at UnitedWaySELA. As always, on behalf of everybody at United Way, thank you for joining us. And I just got a note that our chairman, Rick Hodge, did join the call. Rick, are you there? Okay, apparently we couldn't get Rick on the call. He's on mute. Hold us a second. Rick, are you with us? All right, well, apparently we couldn't get Rick on the call, but we really appreciate you joining us. Hope that you'll join us next month for our next investor call. Thanks for being with us.